to introduce you to Nuka. You all know Nuka, enjoying a pretty foggy start today in Birchie Bay. Expected a little bit of a rainy day in Birchie Bay for tomorrow. Welcome to the Weather Network. I'm Mackey. It's all thanks to a cold front that's slowly, and I mean slowly, making its way through Atlantic Canada. It was the same one that triggered active weather in southern Quebec and southern Ontario, a confirmed EF1 tornado in Lachute, Quebec last night, and over 300 structures damaged. Certainly something we're talking a lot about tonight on the Weather Network. But let's begin in Newfoundland, where we have some rainfall warnings and special weather statements to the southwest, and that is again all thanks to this cold front. We could be dealing with up to 50 millimeters of rain for the region. It's not necessarily the strength of this cold front, but the duration of this cold front. We have an area of high pressure out in the Atlantic. It's kind of blocking this cold front, so we are watching for some lingering showers up towards Sydney and Cape Breton for your Thursday, and then central Newfoundland getting into the rain, and then it won't be until Friday when Newfoundland finally begins to see some rain. So that cold front really stalling out. We have quite a bit of humid air in front of that cold front. So for places like St. John's, we are going to be into the 20s, feeling close to the 30s by the time we get to Thursday. There it is, St. John's 26, feeling like 30. Halifax, still quite muggy for you, feeling like 29. And Moncton, feeling like 28. But note the lack of humidity in southern Ontario. This is all thanks to the passage of that cold front, a northwest flow that's pulling down some air from the Hudson Bay area, and because we have that cool air aloft and warm surface temperatures of the Great Lakes, comparatively, we're actually dealing with some lake effect rain. Typically, we don't see that until the fall, but not unheard of. It is late summer after all. We have a ridge of high pressure that's locked in place through Alberta, and it shifts a little farther eastward as we head into tomorrow. So a hot and dry couple of days expected for the eastern prairies, but things do cool down by the end of the week in Alberta. And the same thing goes for BC. But Alberta, that's where we find our very own Deb Mediashko with the temperature story, then your local forecast. Good to have you here with us at the Weather Network. I'm Mackey, guiding you through your weather story. Experts are sounding the alarm about West Nile virus in southern Ontario. They say an epidemic of outbreaks is very possible by the end of the summer. Watch this. And Rachel Schutzen joins in now with 3 easy ways that you can prevent mosquito bites during these last few days of summer. Thanks, Rachel. Okay, right now, no matter where you live across the country, it's time for a look at your local forecast. And then an amazing time lapse takes us to one of the most populated cities in the world. You add some active weather in the mix, and we're going to New York City for time lapse. And 75 kilometers an hour and over 300 structures damaged in the region. I'm Mackey. That same cold front now becoming a story for Atlantic Canada, stalling out through this evening, so we are expecting some lingering showers for Cape Breton and western Newfoundland as we head into Thursday. Halifax still dealing with some showers through the overnight, and note the cool air in southern Ontario. Toronto at 14. Could be worse. Winnipeg is down to 6 degrees. Now, I mentioned that cold front. Let's talk about what's happening in Atlantic Canada. We do have some rainfall warnings to the southwest. It's not about the strength of this front, it's about the duration. We have an area of high pressure to the east of us, and that's blocking that cold front, and that's why it won't be until Friday when it makes its way over the Avalon. We also have quite a bit of moisture in the atmosphere. It's being drawn up from the tropics. That's another reason we're dealing with this heavy rain. This is a moisture-laden system, and there's your area of high pressure that's kind of acting as the stop sign. Southern Ontario, cool air once again for your Thursday, 21 in Toronto, 22 for Windsor, but we're holding on to that heat in Atlantic Canada despite the rain. But there is some good news. You don't want it too hot, too humid at the CNE. So if you are heading to the CNE over the next couple of days, temperatures in the low 20s and more sunshine by the end of the week. We're watching for some active weather tonight and tomorrow in Alberta thanks to a front sliding through. Not likely going to be as impactful as what we saw in Montreal, and we've also seen a severe wildfire season in BC. Here's the best way to prepare for a disaster. Hi there, I'm Mackey for the Weather Network with today's weather headlines. We begin in southern Quebec. After a very stormy Tuesday night, we had a wind gust in Montreal of 81 kilometers an hour. Meanwhile, in British Columbia, we have over 120 wildfires burning through the region, including the Verdant Creek wildfire. And while crews are making progress, there's some bad news in the forecast. Deb Mediashko explains. Thanks, Deb. To Atlantic Canada now, where 130 young sailors are competing in the Canadian Optimist Challenge. Nathan Coleman has the story, including how they're dealing with some very choppy conditions. The race goes until Saturday, and it might be a little bit choppy for the sailors. Very impressive, by the way, and that's all thanks to a cold front that we have that's pretty much stationary as of right now over Atlantic Canada, and it's also bringing some thunderstorms. Cool and unsettled in southern Ontario for your Thursday with a ridge of high pressure building into the prairies, and that means the hot, dry weather is expected to continue for some. But things are beginning to change in BC. It's time now for a look at what's trending online at theweathernetwork.com. Amanda Weldon joining in. We begin this weather story stateside.
Yes, we do. We have Harvey, and that means the potential for storm surge in through Texas. This could even affect Atlantic Canada, so you're going to want to look at that story online.
Yeah, serious flooding could be catastrophic. And then, of course, we had hundreds of thousands without power on Tuesday night. 7 tips for what you need to do when the power comes back on. Now, Amanda, this next story, pretty interesting.
You remember that song, I'm Blue, Dabbity-Dabbity?
Yeah,
well,
that's the one.
Some dogs in Mumbai are experiencing this, and you're going to see just why. And don't worry, disclosure, they ended up being okay.
Yeah, everything is okay, but you can find out the full story online at theweathernetwork.com. And speaking of animals, this is a pretty interesting one for you.
Yes, my dogs have allergies, and your dogs might have them too, and this is kind of a funny one about it. I'll be sneezing, and then Casey will sneeze. Michelle, it's hilarious around my house.
You can find out what to do to keep your pets nice and healthy this season online at theweathernetwork.com. National forecast. Here's the big picture. We are watching for an upper level low settling into eastern Canada, and with cool air aloft and fairly warm temperatures on the Great Lakes, we're actually expecting some lake effect rain. Typically we see that in the fall, but it's not unheard of in late summer. Now, I mentioned the risk of some active weather in Alberta. This evening we have some energy off the foothills. We've seen some isolated severe thunderstorms already outside of Hinton, and the risk isn't done yet. Large hail, strong winds possible with these thunderstorms. Thursday, the risk area becomes more widespread. Edmonton to Red Deer along the QE2. Please prepare yourself for some potential thunderstorms into the afternoon. And here's the trigger. It's this front that's sliding through the region, but we have high pressure in Saskatchewan and Manitoba, keeping things warm and hot, especially for Saskatchewan. But by the time we get to Thursday and Friday, this front begins to track to the east, so the eastern prairies will eventually see some rain. And speaking of rain, here's how much we're expecting for the region. Heaviest rain looking to be relegated to northern Alberta. Places like Fort McMurray, Grand Prairie at risk of about 50 millimeters. Now this is through Friday, so it's not all going to fall in one day. A little bit less as that front tracks to the east. And temperature-wise, like I said, it's going to be a hot one. Calgary at 27, but a touch cooler in BC with some showers through the overnight into the first half of the day on Thursday. Time now for No Limits. It's faster than a Ferrari and built for racing. We go tunnel boating with Chrissy Van, and then your local forecast.
Amanda Weldon and Michelle Mackey along with you. We're so glad you're here. We have some pretty cool videos to show you. Let's dive right into Montreal because Canada has been getting some active weather.
Tornado confirmed in over 300 structures.
The interesting thing about weather like this is usually you're thinking the biggest damage tornadoes, for sure, we saw that, but the wind and its power to throw things around, that's why we want you to seek shelter immediately when these things happen.
Yeah, that's why we always say when thunder roars, go indoors. Now Thursday marks the 1-year anniversary of the LaSalle tornado in southwestern Ontario. And our very own storm hunter, Mark Robinson, was there by accident to catch it on camera. Watch this.
Well, that was quite the story, and I love that he was actually there by accident, Michelle.
I know, of all the times that he is out there chasing storms and he goes on vacation and that happens. By the way, here's where you can connect with us online. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, share your weather with us because like you saw right off the top in Montreal, we will share your videos and it really helps add to our weather story. And speaking of the weather story.
And here it is. All right, well, we definitely have that trough in through Alberta, the ridge building in through eastern parts of the prairies. Those temperatures still really high. And that trough over Ontario, let's take a look at those temperatures. It's actually Vancouver-like temperatures in through Toronto for the rest of the week. So that's been kind of interesting.
Yeah, no, the good news is by the time we get to the weekend, more sunshine. But Thursday in the Great Lakes Basin, we are expecting some rainy conditions. And you can find out more in your local forecast. And I'll be right back with Chris May because we are breaking down the top 5 must-try foods at this year's PNE. And I'll give you a hint, bugs are involved. Okay, it's time for the top 5 live, and this is another special edition.
We did the CNE earlier. This is
the PNE. Number 5, let's begin with the Oreo rice pudding.
There's a tie though. Coming in with the Oreo rice pudding is the churrorio.
Whoa,
The churrorio.
Oh, I like the Oreo theme. That's one of my favorite.
I'm in on
cookies.
both of those, by the way. How about funnel cake poutine? I say yes to funnel cake poutine.
You know what? I like that we're combining two festival foods.
I like that we're combining normal things. The C&E was off their rocker.
Oh, yeah.
2-foot-long roasted chicken skewer.
I could do that.
I am so
100%.
into that as well.
I am in. And
Why
number
aren't they
two.
sold every day?
Number two. Cricket
yeah, okay, you
fries.
lost me.
And
Sorry.
we're tapping out. Sorry, Chris and I are tapping out. Okay.
Those are cricket.
This is
Oh,
so
come
gross.
on.
Number one
Really?
is the
Is this happening? Roasted cricket
burger.
Okay, enough. This was the top 5.
Live.